Why is Australia always winning? Now I should warn you, there'll be some swearing in this presentation, so if you don't like swearing, piss off now. So why are Aussies so good at winning? I'd like to say it's just because we're good, but that would be a very short presentation. So let's get more creative. After all, Aussies are so creative, they made up phrases for being creative. It's called making up shit. Okay, so that's not entirely true. I made that shit up. But we are different. We see things differently. We talk differently. Our entire culture is different. Only an Aussie would start a presentation by telling their audience to piss off. But every country has a different culture. Borders are where one culture stops and the next one starts. It's so we know when to stop eating snails and start eating pickled cabbage. Every country is different, so what makes the Aussie difference differenter? And I'm going to use science to try and answer that question. My first witness is Captain James Cook. He discovered Australia in 1780 so England could establish a penal colony 10 years later. Not for ordinary criminals either, but for the ones so bad they had to be shipped 15,000 nautical miles away to the driest continent on Earth, home to some of the world's deadliest creatures. But how does that affect our advertising industry 220 years later? Well, the main thing that Cook discovered on that long voyage is that Australia is at the arse end of the world. Yes, my first postulation on why Aussies always win is because we're at the arse end of the world. It makes our colony a Western culture, separated from all other Western cultures by Asia on one side and the Pacific on the other. From a global business perspective, we're in the same APAC basket as Japan, China, India and Singapore, but we have more in common with Canada. We should be our own region, but Australia isn't a large enough market. Our landmass is similar to the US, but with 1/10 the population. When global businesses divide up their budgets for the region, Australia's share is minuscule. Even local businesses have limited finances, constrained by a geographic isolation and high marketing costs of production, media and logistics. Now half the creative process is problem solving, and small budgets are just another obstacle that forces us to think laterally. Imagine a brief that says you can spend as much as you want in any media you want to sell any product you want to any target audience. You'd have a brain implosion. Obstacles are an opportunity to flex some creative muscle. Add to this that our culture is less conservative than most. Not quite as liberal as New Zealand, but we can get away with more than other English-speaking countries. As you could tell by my intro. Aussies are more relaxed. We've had a saying since the 1920s, she'll be right, mate. It's what you say when you get divorced, she'll be right, mate. Or when you lose your job, she'll be right, mate. Remember when Cheney shot Whittington in the bum? If he was an Aussie, he would have said, shit, mate, you just shot me in the bloody arse. Oh well, she'll be right. And while this sounds very nonchalant, it's actually a dogged determination to go on, despite the odds. And Aussies feel like they have a lot of odds against them. We're at the arse end of the world, our budgets are laughable, no one really cares what we do, but she'll be right. It's like we're the Avis of the advertising world. We try harder because we should. And part of our need to prove a point is a denial of the impossible. If you tell an Aussie something can't be done, they'll resolve to do it just to prove you wrong. Because Aussies also love an underdog. If two men got into a fight, the Aussie would put his money on the nerd with glasses, just to be different and prove a point. For example, we all remember the Lynxjet campaign. It won every award in the business. But originally, the brief was to simply paint a single plane. You see, a new airline called Jetstar was launching in Australia, and the media agency scored a deal to paint one of the new planes with Lynx branding. But Jetstar is owned by a major national carrier, Qantas, and they didn't want to risk brand confusion during the launch of a new airline, so they said no. So the agency said, she'll be right. Let's pretend we've created a new airline. They did exactly what Qantas said no to. They caused major brand confusion, with many Aussies thinking Lynxjet was a real airline, and it won a lot. Another big Aussie winner was Best Job in the World. Its original brief was a simple competition on a tiny budget, but the agency overcame these obstacles to put it on a world stage and create a world first. Because Aussies don't want to be like the rest of the world, they want to be better. So maybe the question's wrong. Maybe it's not about Australia always winning, and it's more a matter of how Aussies never like losing. We may have started out as a colony in shackles, but we've thrown off the cultural shackles to keep on winning.